Shinigami Tensei as opposed to just bleary and high. Like I look right now. Holy shit, y'all. I'm having such a fucked up day. First of all, hey, dipshit, if you didn't watch parts 1 and 2, obviously you gotta watch those first. This is part 3. You're not gonna know what the fuck I'm talking about. Although, I will start by saying, I had a fucked up day today. You know, I clogged the toilet this morning, overflowed it. I had to plunge an overflowing toilet until it worked. With not a very good plunger. That was haunting. Way to start the morning, you know? And then I sat around for 3 hours trying to figure out what the fuck I was gonna do today. And as usual, the only thing that was able to motivate me was rage. I thought, well, what about that annoying commenter who wouldn't shut the fuck up about my Dick Show appearance from 7 years ago? I could get mad at that guy and make a whole stream about that. So I did this. And then, you know, my camera overheated because it was too hot outside. And then my camera died because I'm an idiot. I didn't pay attention to how low the battery was. And just stand in a spot and let it charge instead of wandering around, or maybe go find my battery before I started a live stream. And then just now, so you know, I was in between streams, I was charging my phone, I was listening to Femtanol, highly recommended, you know, jamming, dancing around in the garage, drinking some Buena Vezas, tweeting about it, and then Bird was like, you better not drink all the Buena Vezas, and I was like, ooh, I already did. I better go buy more. So then I got in the car and I drove to the beer store, and I got a big pack of Buena Vesa and a whole bunch of other exotic beers. You know, I bought like 12 exotic beers, cheap exotic beers. Well, you know, cheap as exotic beers can be. All look amazing. I drive home. I'm getting the beers out of the car, but I didn't realize they had shifted in transit. So one of the beers tragically died on the driveway. Thank God it was a can, not the bottle that fell next to it. God knows why the can went, not the bottle. But the can hit the pavement. I only got to sip the tiniest bit that was left. The tiniest little bit of this Belgian wit. Of course it was one of the ones I got for me. And that tiny bit I tasted was one of the best beers I've had in a long time. It was actually legitimately great. And I just was so mad. I'm like, I can feel my brain, like I'm developing a headache remembering this because I'm like possibly traumatized by it. I was so upset to see that probably $4, $3 or $4 beer explode onto the pavement, and I got to taste just the faintest scraps. And it's a beer I would happily have paid even more than that for. Oh my God, it hurts so much to think about. So yeah, that was my last straw today. That was where I tipped over the boiling point and I decided this day's fucked. But it's okay, because you had a bad day, you take one down, you sing a sad song just to turn it around, you say you don't know, you tell me don't lie, you work on a smile, and you go for a ride. You know, we all know how it goes. Prediction, this stream will have significantly less viewers because Lolly isn't in the title. You know, part 2 didn't have Lolly in the title, and it had just as many as the first one, but it also came immediately after the first one. So you're probably right. But it's okay. I don't care. I don't expect anybody to make it to part 3. That's not usually how this works. Typically, there's a massive fall off. You know, if you compile them all into one video, that one might have a chance. But I don't see a point. I already made... this is just for fun, making this part 3. Alright, I already made the point. I already made the point actually pretty exhaustively in the hour and 40 minutes that I was doing this already. But I just figured I would bring it home. It wasn't really a satisfying ending. Actually, I was in the middle of a sentence where I was telling the people posting tons of Lolly on the Dick Show Discord, just keep doing what you're doing, gatekeep me. I deserve to be gatekept from this. I don't want to be... you know what? There are some places I want to see that I don't want to be. I want to go, damn, those people are really protecting freedom, you know? Like war. I don't want to go. I'm not ever gonna go fight and die for freedom. I'm a bitch. I'll give up my freedom. You know, I'll fight for freedom as long as I don't gotta suffer physical trauma for it. But I'm not gonna go let myself get tortured. I'm not gonna go let myself get blown up. Are you kidding me? I like functioning and being alive. I'm trying to work within the system. I'm not trying to subvert the system. I like the system. But the system as it stands does in fact protect free speech to such an absolute degree that Lolly is legal. It is legal. It's not a question of should it be legal. It is legal. But does that make it culturally defensible? I think you can use it responsibly, but if you are, I would encourage you, even if you're using it responsibly, I would encourage you to wean your way out of it. The most responsible way to use Lolly is to not use it at all. The most responsible way to handle it is to cut it out of your life. Stop letting it be a part of your identity. Stop letting other people see you as a person who likes Lolly. It's not a good look. I understand it will help you fit in with the most not fitting inest people. Those people suck. They generally are not that fun to be around. You know, all that really happens in that board on the Dick Show Discord is people posting Lolly. Nobody even posts takes. Everyone's afraid to be known for anything other than having an edgy taste in drawings. You know, that's the meta. Who can like the most Lolly of a picture that doesn't quite cross the line into being pornography, I guess. Because they don't post porn. It's just like the most eroticized Lolly drawings possible. Now, in response to part 2 on Twitter, somebody said, "You are a transgender MLP YouTuber going at other people for being degenerate. Is this a joke?" To which I responded, "Which part?" And they said, "All of it." And I said, "You tell me." Here's what I can say. I base a lot of what I do online now on trying to figure out who I would want to hang out with. I think I'm a pretty chill person and I'm pretty open-minded. I'm not hard to get along with, but I'm not really impressed with most people to such a degree that I want to spend time around them, you know? And most people don't have enough, if most people don't want to listen to me talk. So there's a two-way street here, right? I want to hang out with people who want to listen to me talk, and also I want to listen to them talk. And if you become known as a Lolly defender, the types of people that are going to be around you are going to be Lolly defenders. And if you're only kind of doing it as like a free speech argument thing, but not really that serious about wanting to, I don't want anyone to talk to me about Lolly ever. You know, I don't want anyone to come up to me and be like, "Here, check out this Lolly." You know, I'm like, "No, that's fine. I didn't need that." You know, it's it's not a part of my world. You know, it's not something I'm trying to interact with on a day-to-day basis. I'm trying to I'm trying to find ways to surround myself with people who do want to talk about the things I want to talk about, who are interested in the kind of stuff I'm interested in. You know, so I try to focus my content. The reason I bully people out of my audience is I literally don't want them around. Because I've had long stretches of my career where I let people who were giving me, say, $1 on Patreon to hang out in my Patreon Discord, bully me, you know, or affect my decision making or make me feel guilty about the stuff I'm doing because they pay me. But ultimately they were just treating me really poorly, you know, and it was the kind of thing where I just was so stuck in my head of oh, if somebody gives me money, I owe them the world, you know, because money is worth more than anything. And now I'm at a point where I recognize that money is functionally worthless. You know, what worth it has is entirely dependent on well, what are you trying to buy? You know, yeah, it's probably overpriced. So, you know, you need a lot of money to get it. But if you really care about having something, you learn how to make it. I don't know, like how much did you really want that fucking thing? A house? You can learn how to make a house. You know, you can go steal some wood off the fucking somewhere. I don't know. I'm talking crazy right now. I'm just saying. I want to be around the types of people who want to do the kinds of things that I'm interested in, that I am, want to talk about and engage with. So, like, obviously, I want transgender people around because they're the easiest people for me to talk about my feelings and my taste with. They're the most likely to have similar tastes, most likely to have similar feelings, most likely to connect on like a deeper personal level with my content. So I'm more so than ever before, like, deliberately targeting trans people, really staunchly anti-homophobe, like glint of homophobia gets you run out of my channel, like it doesn't matter how many people that scares away. I don't want any of those people. If I could have 50,000 homophobic fans, I would not want any of them, If I can have 50,000 gay fans, I might want them all, but I don't want the people around that I don't want. And so, like, it's not that I want the lolicon people to, like, never watch my content. It's that I don't want them to talk about that here. I don't want them to think this is the safe space to talk about your lolly content. There are other places. Go somewhere else, Go find a lolly community. This is not the lolly community. I don't want to see it. I don't want it in my space, Everybody should have multiple friend groups, Everybody should have multiple spaces for their different interests. I understand how difficult that is in this day and age. We're all, like, locked into our houses. We're all afraid to go outside, commiserate. Everything's expensive. Nobody wants to go out and meet somewhere because then you gotta pay for something, and what the fuck, But, like, join a club, join an organization, join some kind of, find the people in your area that have these interests so that you can, I mean, maybe not a lolicon club, but, like, whatever you're into. I'm just saying, if you're into stuff that I'm not into, that's fine. I just don't want to hear about it. I want you to do it with people who are into it, And that requires me to have a lot of clarity about, like, well, what am I into? Historically, I've been really into anime. But anime is I have a really difficult relationship with it because I think a lot of it sucks. I don't think it's really healthy to think of anime as one giant blanket category, but that's how most people engage with it, unless they're really into just one or two specific shows, and I've never really been into one or two specific shows. It's hard for me to even find shows where, like, not only do I love it, but the production wasn't a nightmare, Like, it's just so rare to find an anime that's truly lovable. And so I've been moving into talking about indie animation more because it's just easier to like. It's just easier to like something that, like, I can see the people working on it and what they're doing, what their conditions are, and how much money they're making, and, like, what they're trying to do, and, like, even if they fail their promises, at least I know it's, like, just this group of humans, and not, like, this mega group of corporations, because every anime is paid for by a fucking production committee, so it's always got some kind of big company that's gonna fuck over either the fans or the small people in the creative team. Like, someone's going to get the short end of the stick somewhere. And I look at something like Lackadaisy that I keep bringing up because I just really like it a lot. I've seen none of the issues. Nothing that is a problem with anime. It's entirely owned by its creator. Everybody who works on it seems to be enjoying it. They have tons of behind-the-scenes stuff. They've merchandised it perfectly. They're collaborating with other independent studios for their funding without having to reach up to that higher level that would fuck them over. It's just like, man, there's signs out there that art can be the healthiest that it has ever been able to be right now. I want to celebrate that stuff, So for me, it's not about talking about, I don't know, whatever kind of fetish content you're into, or whatever specific venue of all this shit. Like, I'm just looking at, like, a more of a big picture lens of, like, how do we make art that does speak to people on that rawer level, more popular, you know? Like, I think it's a very powerful thing also that Lackadaisy is mostly like almost family friendly despite being about gangsters and violence and alcohol and the prohibition era, and like there's obvious sexual tension and the characters are obviously attractive if you're looking for that, but it also isn't, it's no more so than like Zootopia. You know, it's like on that same level, but while being just a better made story. You know, better told, better directed. It feels more mature, not because it's like inaccessible to younger audiences, but because it's not. It just respects the intelligence of the audience. It just thinks that you will be entertained by something smart because it's good. You know, and it's so rare. Koof with $5. Thank you for not killing yourself, and thank you as well, Koof, as always, with the prayer hands. To clarify, are you talking about lolly porn or the archetype? Anyway, I will gladly take upon the lolly baton. I really am just talking about porn, and I will stress this as well, because when that person asked me on Twitter earlier, is this a joke? I then retweeted like 3 pieces of art right then and there that could be called lolly art. But none of it to me registered as sexual at all. And it's not that it couldn't be taken as sexual to somebody. It's just that to me, it was just like, yeah, cute art. It just so happens that one of them's like a stick figure looking like lolly girl in underwear, you know? But it's not the drawing style is non-sexualized. I wouldn't even say like deliberately, almost like they weren't thinking about it. Like it never crossed their mind that this could be a sexual image, or if it did, then it's from a perspective that you would have to be divorcing it from reality. Like you would, because it just doesn't look real. The characters don't look real at all. They are so stylized, so cutesy, you know? And to me, maybe because I consider myself sort of like one of the world's foremost experts in divining authorial intent. That's my expertise. I'm good at looking at a thing and figuring out what did they mean by that. I can see stuff where like maybe it's a drawing of a little girl in her underwear, but it doesn't read as sexual. It just reads as a cute thing that like a girl would draw, you know? Versus, I thought of the perfect example because I was thinking about this earlier when I was buying beer. Eromanga Sensei. So Eromanga Sensei is about something that it isn't, which is it's the main character is this girl who she's like a teenage girl who writes a pornographic or at least very lewd light novel series. And she also does the illustrations and she uses herself for the model. So she'll take a sexy pose and then draw herself in the sexy pose. Now, this is a realistic thing, but the anime itself isn't necessarily a bunch of young girls drawing young girls based on themselves. It's like adults drawing a young, like fetishizing the idea of a young girl drawing pictures of. So like with that show, it always fucked with my head because on the one hand, there's tons of artwork of Eromanga Sensei from people who did not watch the fucking show, who just liked the character design. Because it is tremendously girly. Like, it does a pretty good job of translating in that way that, like, you walk around Artist Alley, if you really want to understand, like, girl anime taste, go to an Artist Alley at any convention, because that's the only place, there's nowhere online that's, like, filtered to girl taste, you know? In real life, the Artist Alley of most conventions is kind of like having the girl taste filter on of what is being sold at the convention. Because, like, you'll go around and almost every booth is just like an explosion of pink and, like, every magical girl, Kirby's everywhere, you know, just like all the cutesy shit. And then a bunch of BL and, like, you know, the Artist Alley is where the Fujos go to live at the cons. And, I got so distracted by finding that idea funny that I lost the plot on what I'm trying to say by it. Well, yeah, you would see Eromanga Sensei there. That's what I was trying to say. At the time that show is big, and like part of it is just because all of these artists are looking at whatever the trending topics are. and basically drawing whatever fits their art style, like whatever they can draw that's trending. So when Eromanga Sensei was trending, every artist had their Eromanga Sensei drawing who could draw it. But that meant all these like girly artists, and I'm sure plenty of people just saw that character design, thought it was cute, and went for it. Not even having seen the show or thought about the intent of the creators in making something that is just like sexualizing a teenage artist, sexualizing the idea of a teenage artist using themselves as the basis for their artwork. So Eromanga Sensei, to me, deeply uncomfortable sexual lolly work, and I would not, even if it was cutesy art, I would be hesitant to share it if I knew it's from Eromanga Sensei, because I just reject the whole notion of the character. I don't like the show. I don't like what it stands for. It's also just terrible. Aside from the sexual aspect, fucking awful anime. So, I don't want any Eromanga Sensei representation. I don't want it sneaking or bleeding into my girly stuff. It's not cute. Get it out of there, But that doesn't mean that something that could be like, again, the ones if you go to my Twitter, you'll see what my taste in art is. I retweet all day. Most of the art I look at is on Twitter because there's so much of it, I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't really go to like art congregate sites because I like text and I like art. So Twitter is the perfect marriage of the two. I've just got a constant feed of hot takes and cool pictures, and whatever I retweet is whatever I look at and I go, oh, that's fucking awesome. Wish I could have drawn that. Like, oh, I understand this emotion. Oh, this is I wish more people would use this color palette. Oh, I hope somebody hires this guy as a background artist one day. Like, that's usually what I'm thinking when I'm retweeting stuff, is like, get this out there so more of this happens. Get this out there so more of this happens. Get this out there so more of this happens, So if I'm retweeting stuff that to you looks like lolly art, you could call that lolly promotion, but I'm not coming at it from a sexual perspective, and I don't think most people are with most of the stuff that I retweet now. Also, I retweet tons of just like hot anime art and like literal pornography. Like, one of my best friends is a porn star, Mid Salad. She's really plugged into the porn world. So I've got tons of that in my feed, just like actual chicks sucking dick. Bam, retweet. If it looks hot, I retweet it. You can, again, discover my whole aesthetic, all of my taste. It's all right there on Twitter. I manicure my Twitter to be my identity. Like, my Twitter is basically just a portal right into how I see myself. The things, the thoughts I have that I consider characteristically mine, I tweet them. The images I see that I consider, this is what I want in the world, I retweet them. If I promote a show on my show, it means I want more of that show, or more things like that show. Or I'm telling everybody, you should be more like this, like, copy this, do this. So, yeah, all of that is why it's important that I really am clear. What is my taste? What do I want people to bring to me? Bring me all your transgender shit. I can relate to almost anything transgender as a transgender person. It's just a very unique experience. There's not a ton of us out there, but most of us are artists because we got to find a way to express this fucking feeling somehow. We got to find a way to connect to other people who have had this feeling somehow. Kufa $2 says, follow-up, is a lolly consumer a bad person? I don't think so. But I think you can be, obviously. I think it's all about how you, Koof, I think you're a great person. Koof, I've never heard of you doing anything criminal ever. You just give lots of money to live streamers and thank people for not killing themselves. The whole reputation of Koof is Lolicon also thanks you for not killing yourself. That's it. Now, when I see somebody who is both a lolicon and thanking people for not killing themselves, my immediate thought is, this person must think about killing themselves every day. Because they're a lolicon and they're constantly thanking other people for not killing themselves. Because killing yourself creates a chain reaction. When people start killing themselves, it creates imitations. So, we really gotta frown on it as a community. If you want to avoid it, you really gotta frown on it. You really have to discourage it. You have to be like, it's not cool, it's not funny, you know, it's not gonna make you fit in. It's not gonna take you to where your friends are. You're just gonna be nothing, you know. Just gotta make sure everybody understands death isn't cool. There's nothing fun about it, you know. It's just the end, and then everybody else is sad, and then a bunch of them start killing themselves, and you can't let that happen to a good community. You know, like if you think that the people around you are good, you really got to make sure they're not dying. You know, because otherwise, the shitty people, they're just gonna keep populating. They're not dying, you know, unless they are. We should drive them to death. You know, you should make shitty people want to kill themselves. I don't think Lolicon should want to kill themselves, as a matter of course, if they're not hurting anybody. But I do think they should be especially if they want to kill themselves, they should be working on it. If you're like, oh, I should kill myself because I'm a Lolicon, maybe think about not being a Lolicon anymore, because that's coming from you. If you're insecure about it, I know social pressure can do a lot, but it think about how much social pressure there is on me to not transition. People are literally insisting to me daily to somehow revert, to suck the tits back out, like put a vacuum in here and just suck the tits back out, and become Digibro again. Like, people beg me for that every day. I'm not going to do it. I care about myself more than their opinions. So if you feel that way, you know, if you're just like, yeah, fuck you, I'm a Lolicon, I don't care what you fucking think. That's obviously based. But if you want to really be lifted, you gotta lift yourself, you know. Word. I'll be live streaming.
Okay, I'm just grabbing something.
You're fine. I'm screaming at people, I'm going, ah! I'm not really screaming at anybody, am I? So that'd be much louder. Am I on HRT? Yes. I specifically am on estrogen for about 8 months, close to a year, maybe. I'm not sure. Somewhere between 8 and 10 months, probably. Is there a difference between Shotacons and Lolicons? No, not really. I don't. It's a different fetish, I guess. They probably think there's a difference, but in the context of what I'm talking about, no, there is not a difference. Yeah. Like, I was just thinking of the term lolly shota. I was like, I feel like shota is kind of encompassed in lolicon, but I guess they are two different terms. What I wouldn't do to have HRT right now, look up how to make it. Mine was literally homemade with, like, common ingredients you could buy at the grocery store for cheap, like, type shit. Not the grocery store, probably, but, like, you know. It was homemade by a person who doesn't have a lot of money. Who I just gave, like, they offered to do it for free, and I gave them money because I knew they were broke. So, you know. You can definitely figure out how to make your own estrogen. I thought the point of Shotacons was to beat off to the giant moms. Well, see, that's another part of it, right? So, like, when I talked about this on the Dick Show, I paraphrased a quote from a famous lolicon talking about how, like, they see themselves as the little girl and the demon is society that's raping them, you know? And I think a lot of people, yeah, they want to be the little boy with who's just getting swallowed up in the tits, you know? Like, but... And again, I don't think any of this is necessarily unhealthy, but I do think it's worth interrogating, and also, like, not something you just bring up in polite conversation, you know, like something you maybe would talk about on the down low with people you know have a similar fetish or would understand where you're coming from, you know. I'm not saying I don't want, like, the discussion of fetishism to be more normalized or for people to not be held so account. I'm just saying, like, protect yourself. Like, think about what you're doing, you know. Don't go through life, especially if you're confused about why. Like, if you don't, like, I feel like with the lolicon stuff, for me, I feel like I have a pretty clear-cut understanding of what was appealing about it to me, because I've thought so much about the psychology of my own sexuality. Anytime I find something attractive, I interrogate it, I try to figure out why. you know? That's why I was doing those porn analysis videos for a while. It's like, I think it's interesting to try to understand it. But there's also a level on which saying the quiet part out loud ruins it for a lot of people. Like, that's why I call this ruining a joke. Because a lot of people say, like, well, if you explain the joke, it ruins the joke. And that's kind of true, because sometimes the point of the joke is to make fun of the people who don't get it, you know? But I think, to me, I get fed up with people not being caught up. Like, I just get to a point where I am more annoyed that people aren't getting the joke than I am that I have to explain it, you know? And with the lolly thing, in particular, to break down the Dick Show appearance, because people act like, well, you couldn't possibly have said that as a joke. And it's like, if you listen to it, and I'll stress this especially to the lolicon people in the audience, I kept saying, I am a lolicon fan, which is a weird turn of phrase nobody uses. I wasn't saying I was a lolicon. I kept saying I was a lolicon fan, because at that point, I myself didn't identify as a lolicon, but I liked what they were doing. You know, I was like, well, I like that they're pushing the envelope, and I like that they're making people mad, you know? So, like, I'm a fan of this is why I'm still supporting Koof, you know? Like, yeah, I don't know, you're doing something funny by making people so upset with this shit. It's just not my gimmick, you know? And so I kept calling myself a lolicon fan, but I also didn't want to I didn't want to pussy out. Like, I didn't want to use that as my excuse and make it like, oh, I just like, because that sounds weird, right? That sounds sus in and of itself. I was like, fuck it, just full throat it, go all the way. And so when he says, can you explain what that means? And you can hear me talking very slowly, because every single word I'm trying to decide, how funny do I want to be? So I'm like, I'm a huge fan of, and that's where I'm thinking, like, do I want to say people who like lolly art, or do I just want to say that I'm a fan of lolly art? And then so I said illustrations of, and then I said, okay, well, now I've cleared the barrier of it's me. I'm not speaking about it like I'm a fan of somebody else. So now it's me being a fan of illustrations. What is the funniest, most intense, most hard-hitting way that I could express liking lolicon? And so I chose the phrase little girls getting fucked. And I like lean in, fucked, you know, like as hard as possible. And Dick's like, oh no, that's exactly what I was fearing you would say, you know, like it was a perfect bit, executed perfectly. And it was really funny. And mostly I was just so upset about the Barack Obama shit. Because again, the whole reason this appearance happened is Patreon had suddenly made a decision that they were going to not have any art depicting underage characters on their platform. And what that means was sparking a huge controversy, because I had like artists contacting me being like, oh, like I literally lost my Patreon because of this change. And I was like, well, that really fucking sucks, you know? Incredible. Someone notorious you know once went by the username RoryCon fan. Who is that? Oh wait, wasn't that anime snob? Was that him? I know that was somebody. I'm taking this conversation outside. I don't want to talk about lolly in front of my dad. It's weird. Koof said, you groomed me, Trixie. I'm like this because of you. Whoa. Oh shit, it's like kind of raining out here. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, ABDL artist got screwed by Patreon recently. Right. So, that's exactly the subject. Yeah, they basically just banned all porn that they just decided, I guess, by what metric, who knows. You know, and it was literally like a case-by-case thing, and people were just getting pulled down. And an artist had contacted me about it, who was like, basically it was somebody who had offered to draw a doujinshi if I were to write it, and then they were telling me about this problem they were having with Patreon, so I was like feeling like personally a vested interest in addressing the concern, especially because maybe somebody who maybe they would listen to with my opinion. So but the my ex was also incredibly offended by this, because she was also, a huge backer of lolly art and was like really upset, and she didn't want to come out and make a stance about it because she didn't want to have to get too personal about why she likes the stuff. So I was like, well, I can get personal about it because I'm past it and I feel like I understand it. I can feel like I have a good grasp on it, and I've already kind of shared these feelings. So, I don't feel like I'm in the heat of it. It's like something I could talk about coldly from a distance. So, it was like, because I was upset at Patreon, I made the initial tweets, and then Barack Obama, did the whole quote tweet attack thing, sending all these people after me. And then, she also having defended the point, like both of us just were getting death threats and shit. She was like sincerely terrified by that because it never happened to her before. And, it was just like, it was an incredibly vicious response to me saying like, hey, I think Patreon should respect free speech rules. Like, it should just, whatever's not illegal to do, Patreon should not be telling you can't do it. I think that's a very reasonable stance to take. But, I got flooded with all this hate because of it, and so I went on the Dick Show to complain about that and to make it clear, to set the situation straight. But again, I took the funniest approach I could, because I was like, if I'm going to be defending this, I'm going to have to be the spokesperson of it. I cannot take it as a half measure. I can't say I'm speaking for somebody else. I have to be speaking for myself. So, I went all in. But again, other people took up the torch. People who actually like lolly have taken that and run with it and gone and become the defender voices. I opened up the doors for people to do that, but it's not my job. It's not my battle to fight, because it's insincere coming from me. I actually don't think you really should look at this stuff. I think it's probably bad for you. I think you should really reconsider it. But, whatever. I will defend your right to have it. I'm like that guy from Futurama, the flag guy, the guy who, like, every part of his body was fucking fake because he lost in an award defending the flag. I'm like that for takes. Me and Vito both. We're like that for, when it comes to free speech. It's like, I will have every bad take that will protect free speech in the long run. As long as it's to protect that free speech, I'll have the shittiest take. I'll make people think I like lolly. I'll make people think I like, I don't know, whatever. Lolly's the worst. I couldn't think of another bad thing. So yeah, I wouldn't say I regret it. I just want it to be over. I'm over the period of being the representative of lolicons, and for people to still be bringing up this, what I thought was a very funny joke on a podcast 7 years ago, and talking about it like, well, it can't possibly be a joke because you said that you like lolicon and that's not funny. And I'm like, well, I can explain to you why it's funny, but like, the proof is in the pudding of the fact. So this guy who was complaining about this on Twitter, specifically, he was complaining to my friends. He was bitching at Tony from Hack the Movies. He was bitching at Tony for having Riley and Mint on his show on the basis that they are friends with me, who had said that joke on the Dick Show 7 years ago. So he was trying to say, Tony, you need to stop hanging out with these degenerates because they abet this pedophile who said this thing. And I was like, bro, first of all, because he hadn't tagged me in this, I was like, first of all, why are you talking shit about me to my friends behind my back and trying to get them to not like me? When, of course, Tony's the one who sent me this. Like, hey, look at what this guy's saying about you, Look at this idiot. And I'm like, this will be fun. So, I start bullying this guy back and explaining to him, like, it's obviously a joke. You can tell because everybody who thought it was funny is hanging out with me And you, who don't think it's funny, are not hanging out with any of those people because you are a weird internet spurred hater who nobody wants to be around. And I am cool and funny, and all you have to do is meet me in person to immediately be like, yeah, you're obviously not a fucking pedophile. I don't even like sex in the first place, except for with my partner. You know, I'm such a avoidant, chaste. I also hate even young people being around me because I smoke a lot of weed and I drink a lot of beer. So like, I don't like having any kind of, and I care about my influence on people. So I don't like being around people who I'm going to have a negative influence on, you know. So yeah, I try to avoid young people as much as possible. And I don't know, again, I just feel like it would be funnier if I really was like staunchly like, nah, I love lolicon and it's my thing, but like I can't be that person. It's not, I'm not, you know. And it doesn't help me to have people running around thinking that. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about some dweeb on Twitter from yesterday who was trying to, he was like literally messaging Tony like, I'm gonna tell Screenwave that you hang out with degenerates who hang out with a pedophile. And Tony's like, well, I don't even fucking work for them anymore, so good, like that'll do a whole lot of good. And I'm over here like, I fucking met Screenwave, they know who I am, and they've looked at they've all seen these clips, you know. They've also met me and know I'm not that person. They know it's a joke. They've all told edgy jokes, you know, like everybody who's got a brain knows what a joke is. And then you got these fucking freaks on the internet who are screaming all day on Twitter. And like, the funniest thing is when you start pointing one of these people out to your audience, and at first they think that nothing's gonna come of it. Because I was like quote tweeting him and he was like, why do you keep quote tweeting me? Nobody cares. And I was like, it's 10:30 in the morning, bro. You and I, hyper online people who love to argue for a career, we're doing this right now. But when everyone who's like, you know, a regular human wakes up and sees it, then they will come in and all laugh at you. And that's what happened. And it was really funny because he shut the fuck up after I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk about your comments on my stream. And he was like, who cares about your stream? 10 people watch it. And I was like, I love those 10 people. I'll have a great time laughing with those 10 people about you later today. And what do you know? There's 33 people here to laugh about it now. Let us all enjoy ourselves a chuckle. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. So yeah, that was a funny interaction. I've decided I'm not blocking people anymore. I'm just going to annoy them until they leave me alone. Like if somebody's tack is to try to annoy me, I'm convinced I can annoy them more. Like I can make you regret wasting your time on me. Like Kitboga. I love that guy's content, the whole concept of it. If you don't know Kitboga, and I don't really watch his videos because they're all kind of the same, but I love what he's doing. He wastes the time of scammers. And this is something he's making massive amounts of money doing because he's live streaming it, he makes edited videos, they're fucking hilarious. And it's like he's really, really fucking with these people, but they're innately not people you can root for. They're scammers. They're all doing telephone scams. They're all trying to steal money from old people. And even if some of them you're like, you know, I might even back you over some of the people you're trying to steal from. But they're usually just awful people. And unfathomably willing to waste their own time in an effort to try to get their heads on somebody else's money. Completely blinding themselves to all the obvious signs that they are being rubed. Yeah, they're fucking funny videos. And so I'd rather do that. Like if somebody's gonna come at me with their concern trolling or whatever, you know, I used to block them, but they're not gonna learn anything from that. So it'll be more fun to just like make them regret it, you know? And it seemed to work on that guy because he argued with me he argued in such a way where it was like I would go away and do something for a couple hours, and then I'd come back and see his last reply. I'd respond to it, and then he'd respond immediately. I'm like, okay, so you've been sitting at Twitter waiting for me to respond to you for the 2 hours that I was doing something else, you know, because you are here at the beck and call of my response. And that was what made it fun. It was like, oh, I know that if he doesn't respond to me immediately, it means he's given up. And so, you know, there was a definitive moment where it was like, ah, yes, bask in the glory of victory. You've done it, gang. You scared the guy off. Being mean on the internet is fun. I do encourage it a lot. Hot take, we went too far with Heartcatch Precure hype. I'm encountering people on my video comments that deny the possibility that any season could be better than Heartcatch, even a season by the same director. People on my comments are like, yeah, but it's not Heartcatch. Well, have they seen all the other ones? Because if your opinion is how could it be better and you haven't seen it, you're an idiot. Like, why would you just assume that? Where's the logic? Now, speaking personally, I do find it hard to imagine myself liking another Precure more than Heartcatch just based on the visuals alone and how much I like Erica as a character. But I haven't seen that many of them. I've only seen the first couple episodes of most of the Precures, you know? Most of them don't really get their juices going until later. I've heard that Heartcatch is not as long-term interesting as a lot of the other ones. And frankly, I don't think most of the people who hype Heartcatch Precure have seen the whole show. Myself included. I've only seen 18 episodes, and that's the most I've seen of a Precure. I'm not somebody with Precure takes. Anybody who cares about Precure has seen all the Precures. If you're only watching Heartcatch and you're dismissing the rest, you don't care about Precure. You're just a bandwagon jumping on, you know, a popular show from 2007. Not even a popular show. You're an hour and a half from home, Bird? What the fuck? It's already 4. Oh my god. Y'all, Bird works like 25 minutes from the house. So this means the traffic is utterly fucked. How can it be 90 minutes? How can they even predict that? Is it that they like said, oh, we're just closing this road for the next hour? Like, fucking A. Well, I assume you'll probably stop at like a bar or something. I'm not expecting to see Bird anytime soon. This day has continued with the foibles. It's been a day of foibles for me. A very foiblicious day. You ever had a real foible-y day? What changes have I noticed on estrogen? Well, tits. My tits get bigger every day. I mean, this shirt doesn't really show off my tits, really, but you can go watch some of my other videos to see my tits, I guess. You know, I feel like it's easier for me to express my emotions and just like myself, like my appearance, like the energy I give off, you know? I feel less intense. I feel more, I don't know. I don't feel like incredibly different. I wouldn't say it's like a massive change. It's more like a subtle increase over time of comfort, like a general sense of comfort with the way my body feels and the way that I am. It's hard to really put because it is, again, it's incredibly gradual. You just take a little bit every day. So it's like, you know, it's probably easier to observe from an outside perspective what the effects have been than it is to observe from an inside perspective. I mean, initially it was a lot of crying, like, because I spent for most of my adult life, I could not cry. Like, nothing would make me, like, I would maybe shed, I literally had a catalog of every time anime had made me shed a tear. Like, I made a post, like, grouping the, like, 10 times I shed a tear during anime, and the most was, like, 3 or something like that. Well, no, the most was the end of the Fuko arc in Clannad, the first arc in Clannad. just the presentation was overwhelming, and it caught me at a moment feeling emotionally weak, I guess. And I just bawled my eyes out. But that, again, it was like countable, the number of times between ages like 16 and 28 that I had cried. And then for the first couple years of HRT, there was just way more. And not in like a negative way, not like bad crying, but like, you know, cathartic, oh my God, I can finally let it out type crying. You know, now I feel like it's just a capability. Like if I wanted to, I could do it, you know, like if I was thinking, oh, I really want to cry tonight, I'm going to play a movie that I know is going to make me cry, I could do that in a way I could not before. So, you know, that's probably the biggest difference I saw, is the capability of emotional release that I was lacking. How's the facial hair situation? I shave every single day, in first thing in the morning pretty much, and it doesn't look any better. You know, I have to shave my whole body every 4 days if I want to have a shaved body. So it's bad. The hair situation is not slowed down in the slightest. You know, my dad had paid for me to do the laser stuff back when we lived in Huntington Beach. I got 2 appointments into 10. Then he kicked me out. Then now I live with him again, but we don't live anywhere nearby to any of the laser places, so I've not been able to continue it. I assume I could, maybe, but it would just be such a hassle to make it happen. And I don't know if, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to leave a big gap in between appointments. I don't know if all the effort was undone already, but I have been told that taking enough estrogen over a long enough time will eventually stop or slow body hair growth, but it's not a guarantee. You know, it might just make it thinner. I think my hair might be thinner than it was pre-transition. Again, it's hard to say. It's been so gradual. It's been 4 fucking years. I wasn't doing estrogen for a lot of that time, granted. It was like 6 months and then a long gap, and then like now 8 to 10 months. And when I was doing it the first time, I was taking both T blockers and estrogen. Now I'm just taking a lot of estrogen. I just kind of epic dose it as often as possible. Facial hair is probably the thing that gives you the most dysphoria, and it's so annoying to shave every day. Yeah, I'm completely with you. I mean, it's by far the thing that gets me clucked the most. You know, like, it's the reason that people have a hard time accepting me as a woman, even when they, like, I can watch the mechanism in people's heads turn when I walk into a place and their brain tells them woman, and then they see the facial hair and their brain tells them man, and then they're more convinced of the man thing because they don't think a woman could grow the facial hair, so it gets them locked. It gets the gear locked, and they can't figure out which one. And the tendency for a lot of people is to lean towards man because they just don't have a conception of trans people, you know? They're thinking, this is a gay man. And they might be accepting of a gay man, they just aren't conceiving of a trans woman, you know? So I deal with that a lot. But the true test is whether or not after you say, after Bird says, oh, she, do they then catch on, or do they try to deny? Do they insist on continuing to use male pronouns, or do they try to avoid it altogether and end the conversation, or do they get like, oh yeah, she's great, like, oh, would you, darling, also like it? You have a more feminine, youthful face, so transitioning might be easier for me. If it's more feminine and youthful than mine, you probably will. I have passed in certain circumstances, like back when starting transition, I had a huge benefit of doing it during the pandemic because I was wearing a mask all the time. And when you cover all this up, including the nose, I pass a lot easier. The eyebrows are the most like questionable thing, but it's not like no girls have big eyebrows ever, so it's not like that big a deal. But the facial hair is by far, and just the shape of my jaw, So wearing a mask, tremendously helpful. If I'm out in like a dress and a mask, no one's going to clock me. No one's going to say, sir or whatever. because there's just nothing there to auto clock, you know? You might get suspicious. You might think that body type's not that feminine. But if you feel that way about lots of ladies, you know? Plenty of chicks are like, oh, that's kind of a masculine lady. But, you know, you wouldn't then call them sir unless you saw the facial hair. This is the borderline I stand on culturally. This is where I'm at. You're right, Moogie from K-On! Has big eyebrows, indeed. Alright, I think I'm done with this one. In like an hour or two, I'll have access to the office, and then we can do a traditional sit down, watch stuff together, maybe edit some video, maybe edit my latest anime script, and, you know, watch some shit and all that kind of shit, do the shit, you know, we're just gonna shit it up, we're gonna take a big shit together, we're gonna be big shit, and we're gonna shit it up, we're gonna shit hard, we're gonna shit loud, we're gonna shit crazy.